is just one example where you see that when it comes to decision making, first and foremost, one needs to gather information, and then of course to ensure that there is communication. The box that you see here, okay, this was actually pulled out from my PhD, but basically what it says is, if a founder wants to decide on creating a venture, he needs to be able to aspire not just his family members, but certainly his employees. On top of that, he needs to also encourage for informal meetings in order to promote communication and openness. What is dangerous is for you to have employees who keeps on saying, yes, sir, and that can be dangerous because then they would not be an objective feedback from the employees and families. So in order to encourage encourage communication and openness, they needs to have a lot of informal meetings. Okay. So this is one of the companies that we've worked with for the past 10 years. It's called Mohd. And this was, the picture you see here is taken recently, about 2 months ago. We attended their 43rd anniversary, and this is the founder, So his name is Haji Muhammad Fauzi. So when he talks about decision making in venture creation, he says that first he needs to gather information. Then he will ensure that he sits down with his family and speak about it. Similarly, this is another avenue that I encourage families to discuss and communicate. This is a slide where we see a next gen asking, how do you get the support of your father? How do I get the support of my father if I want to improve the business, for example? So in doing this, it's very important that if you want to bring out an idea, and most of the time, a father and son relationship, the father may not really want to hear what the son would want to bring to the table. So it's best that for the next gen to really understand what is the strategy that he wants to bring forward. He needs to talk to relevant teams within the company. He needs to read and to find out as much information as he can get. And most importantly, during that communication, he has to get his father involved. It is very important that you value the father's feedback, and by doing so, then naturally there will be a father and son bond. So that is what we encourage a next gen to do, especially when it comes to coming up with a proposal, coming up with new strategies. This is another company in Malaysia. They build furnitures. So it says here that it's not an easy thing, to communicate with your father. In the words of Joseph, he's always looking for production efficiency, and he really needs his father's support. But communication remains a challenge. His father doesn't really speak English, does business in a very typical old-fashioned way. But we tell Joseph that it's important to continue to have that communication with the father, in order for him to bring forward ways on how to improve efficiency. You cannot just shut down, or you cannot just not talk. You cannot just bulldoze. You need to get your team involved. You need to get your father involved, and you need to have feedback back and forth. So that's on decision making when it comes to venture creation or coming up with a project or a new strategy. Now, the second scenario is on succession. So how do we have conversations when it comes to succession? This is another company that we've worked with for the past 10, 12 years. It's called Karangcraft. They are one of the biggest printers in Malaysia. They are in their second generation, and you can see the two gentlemen sitting down are the founder and the co-founder. So the owner is the main founder is this Datuk Husamuddin Yaakob, yeah, and you can see that these are their the next generation. And some of them are not even the children of the two founders. They are, you know, the nephews and nieces who are together in the senior management team. But in the words of Datuk Husamuddin, he says that when it comes to succession planning, it's very important that the next generation is prepared. It's very important that they maintain the existing values, but at the same time, they have to adapt to changes. And for Karangcraft, they have done this succession planning. The process has been a long process. They started doing this more than 15 years ago. And they believe that the involvement of all the senior management, the employees and the families needs to be informed. The plans needs to be communicated to the entire organization. They've got about 1,500 employees. Yeah. So this is still Karangcraft's case. There are two videos here. If you want to take a screenshot of this and look back at the videos, you can listen to the video and see what Datuk Husamuddin says when it comes to succession planning and how important are virtues and values when you plan on succession planning. Yeah. Now the question is, why are values and virtues important when we're talking about mindful communication? It's very important because when it comes to succession, when you need to pass the baton to the next generation, and the fact that succession planning takes about 10 years, 10 to 15 years, at times 20 years, there must be effective communication. There must be good inculcation of values. There must be trust among family members and employees to welcome the next generation to take the helm. Yeah, so that is why values and virtues are important, and that is why communication is very important throughout this 15 years process of succession, right? Here's another example, also on Karangcraft. One of the ways that they continue to communicate, not so much on the structured formal manner, because that is documented and that's on your SOP and the processes that they put in place. But most importantly, when it comes to communication, to build trust, you need to do it in an informal manner. Yeah. So for this company, what they've done is they have developed what they call a family approach with their employees. They have what we call the makan session. Makan in our Malay language means to eat, or potluck and eating together. And they believe that if you eat together with your co-workers, then you tend to talk about families, their families and your families, and by doing so, then the family values becomes stronger. Again, values needs to be planted into the entire process of succession, because through these values, through such communication that you put between and among family members and employees, then succession would be easier, yeah, and the process would be smoother. All right, so here's another slide that I'd like to share on a quick question. This is when the founder is asking, what will happen if the children are not interested in the business? What if the children are not interested to be the successors? Yeah, so here, it's very important that I advise founders, business owners, to have conversations with their children. Yeah, it's important to hear them out. It's also important for the founder to speak less and listen to the children more. Yeah, because naturally, children would not want to speak too much if the founder or the father is too vocal. Yeah, but there would be instances where the children are not interested, but you want to pass over the business to your children. So how do you have conversations with the children? Yeah, so it's important to speak less, to communicate your goals, make them understand what your vision is, what your goals are for the business, and and let the children take on that process together with you. So this is the next scenario during crisis. How do you have communication in a very mindful manner during crisis? So I'm taking the example of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are currently all facing. This is an example of a public listed company. It's called Top Glove, and they are the biggest producers of gloves, yeah, in the world. When it comes to crisis, especially looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, it's very important that communication to your stakeholders goes out to the public. It's important that he addresses how preventive measures are being taken for the employees, for example. So as you can see in the first video, I'm not going to play the video, but you can take time and Google and look for the videos. Yeah. So they recently came out with a video called COVID-19 Preventive Measures. And this is the effort for them to communicate not just to their employees, but to the stakeholders that they care, that Top Gloves care about their employees. Yeah. And there's another video, a special message by the founder himself, Tan Sri Dr. Lim Wee Chai. Yeah. So in this video, he talks about, how the company is facing COVID-19, how it's important for his employees to stay healthy, how the employees are working amidst COVID-19, on social distancing, and at the same time on what they are doing when it comes to giving back to the community. This is important because it's part of communication. Family businesses, whether you are small, medium, large, and in this case, Top Glove is a public listed, is so much more important that they communicate what they are doing during crisis. Yeah. So in his words, in the video, as you can see later on, he says that when everyone is healthy and doing well, we must remember to thank others who have contributed and appreciate what we have. So I think what he's saying is, regardless what the situation is, we have to be thankful, bersyukur, yeah, to thank God for whatever that we have and appreciate for whatever we have. So this may seem very, very minute, yeah, but it goes a long way because it's the voice of the founder going out to the stakeholders. Yeah. Another slide that I'm sharing is all the other family businesses that are reaching out to the community in Malaysia. I've been over here, if you can quickly run your eyes through this particular slide, we talk about a small company helping the marginalized community to deliver food to the frontliners. We've got Karangcraft, the printers that I mentioned earlier on, who has initiated a fundraising activity for the frontliners. And there's another public listed company called Masing. Yeah, they are a developer where they donated more than 3.9 million worth of critical care ventilators. Yeah, and when doing this, they are communicating to the stakeholders, whether they are small or large. They are communicating. Being in the mass media or the social media, it's important to communicate what you are doing during a time of crisis such as COVID-19. And when people are aware, then people know that number one, you exist. Number two, you care. Yeah, you care not just during good times, but you care also during bad times. So some of the questions I know that I've highlighted here. These are 3 questions based on the 3 scenarios. Yeah, when it comes to decision making, are decisions made at the dinner table or in the boardroom? Think about it. Reflect on how, if you are from a family business, how decisions are being made, how communication are being, being shared among family members and employees when it comes to decision making. Was it done in the boardroom, or was it done at the dinner table with your father, yeah? Or with your children for that matter? When it comes to succession, when do you start to talk or to communicate to your children about succession? Think about that. Yeah, is there a certain age for that? Yeah, when do you start to communicate? And lastly, when it comes to crisis, do we really need to talk about it with our stakeholders? Okay. Here's another one whereby it says that none of the children is interested in the family business, so how can he actually impose it to the children? Yeah, so as mentioned earlier on, when it comes to succession, it's a long process, but it's important for you or the founder to convey your aspiration, your hopes, your fears, your dreams to your children. Be honest, and at the same time, listen to what the children are saying, because they also have their own voices. They have their own concerns. They've got their own hopes, their fears, and also their dreams. Yeah, so it's important that to talk about it, to communicate about it, and we do not want, because at the end of the day, we do not want that succession only happens when there is a conflict or when there is death. Yeah, so I say that when it comes to succession, it's usually a blind spot. You think you don't really have to address it. It's a blind spot, but you don't want to wait until death or conflict, because if you do, then it's going to be more it's going to be dangerous for the entire family and the business. Yeah, businesses can collapse. Yeah, when succession doesn't happen, or when succession happens upon death or conflict. Yeah, so I do suggest that you need to start the conversation now. So moving on, now that you have your 3 scenarios, I don't know why they are this. Okay, now that you have your 3 scenarios, I want you to then, look at 2 types of families. Yeah, there are families in harmony, and there are also families who are open to conflict. Okay, families in harmony is good because they are always happy and they are together. However, when it comes to communication, sometimes they are too afraid to voice out what they think and what they feel, because they do not want to upset each other. And this can be bad. Yeah, and when it comes to making decisions, families in harmony would have a harder time making a decision, as opposed to families open to conflict. So they are always voicing their opinion. But the problem is also they cannot communicate well. Yeah, because communication requires one person talking and the other one listening, but it's more than just talking and listening. It's about understanding each other. Yeah, so families who are open to conflicts, they have a problem understanding each other. Yeah, they have a problem to connect with each other. Yeah, so reflect and see which family do you fall into. Are you a family in harmony, or are you a family who is open to conflict? Now, whether it's a family in harmony or families who are open to conflict, let me ask the question, does the business bring the family together, or the family that keeps the business intact? Does the business bring the family together, or the family that keeps the business intact? So whether your family is a family in harmony or a family who is open to conflict, what is important is to support each other, to share your perspective, and to use more of we rather than I. So going back, when it comes to communication, we know that when it comes to succession or governance structure, okay, it's a long process. And I'm pulling the succession and governance structure as an example because this is the two areas whereby communication becomes very challenging. It's a long process. Some may have the patience for it. Many do not have the patience for it. It's an imperfect journey. Yeah, we can't have everybody on the boat and feeling that they are doing fine. The waters are always bumpy. Yes, so hence communication becomes more important during succession or governance structure. Yeah, to many, ask yourself, is it emotionally draining? Yeah, because it takes a lot of time, it can really pull your emotion down. Yeah, so some of the things that you can do when it comes to um, going through a certain process in terms of succession or coming up with a governance structure. Families individually, you yourself, to start with, you need to have some kind of structure. Yeah, design the process. You may want to document it and communicate it. So when we say communicate, you need to share with each other often. Yeah, you do not want to just keep it to yourself. You need to support each other, share feelings, emotion, and hear each other out. Yeah, so if you want to have mindful communication, you got to dwell into feelings. You got to dwell into emotions, because each one of us, we have our emotions and we have our own feelings that we need to also address. Yeah, um, keeping everyone in the loop with frequent communication. This can be done over once a month, over lunch or dinner or tea. Or it can be shared on a common platform like a family WhatsApp group, or or through a certain Facebook Messenger platform, or whatever else platform that you would want to set up to ensure that everybody is in the loop. Yeah, when it comes to mindful communication, it's important that everybody is in the loop. Uh, Whoever who's being left out or do not know the true story of what's going on may feel left out. Yeah, and many a times the lack of communication or the lack of understanding of what's going on, that is where families will start to crack. Yeah, when I say crack, it's because when they feel they're not part of the gang, for example. Yeah, they feel like there are different clusters, different gangs within the family. Then they will feel, that they cannot trust one or the other. And when you don't trust one or the other, that is where conflict will happen. Yeah, so that's why, to go back again to communication is important. You don't have communication, you don't do it well, then you will have family members that will not trust you. and when there is no trust, there will be conflict, right? Another method that is much advised to be done by families who are going through succession or a governance structure is to hire an experienced advisor. Yeah, so the advisor can help the family not just to mediate among family members, but to also help to plan, execute, and moderate the entire process. Yeah, so by having an experienced advisor, he can help to also convey certain messages from the founder to the next generation or vice versa. Here's another example whereby there's a question is, this is a problem where the founder does not want to retire. Yeah, so how would the children communicate to the founder who who is already 73 years old, and he's got 5 children, and the eldest is 49 years old, but the father doesn't seem to bring any of the children towards a proper succession planning. Yeah, so what can the children do in order to have this conversation going with the father? Yeah, so one of the things that the next generation can do is to sit down among siblings, yeah, gather feedback among the siblings, and get everybody involved in the process. Assign roles and responsibilities among yourselves, yeah, and then try to be very clear and make sure that expectations are met. At the same time, if you want, say, your father to start to plan to retire, you need to have a retirement plan for your father, yeah, and also your mother, yeah. And in this retirement plan, you need to be generous, because they are so comfortable with how they live, yeah. They have a particular lifestyle, so in their retirement plan, you got to make sure that you are generous and you provide that lifestyle, a comfortable lifestyle for your father and your mother. Yeah, and the siblings needs to plan this together. Yeah, and in doing this plan, you need to continuously update each other, and when the time is right, then you have to start talking to your father or to the founder. Yeah, find the right time. It's going to take a while, but in this particular case, the father is already 73 years old. Yeah, it's time to start talking, yeah, about succession planning. You need to start to communicate about it. If the founder is not doing it, then the children who are already, well into their 40s and 50s should come together and plan succession and communicate this to the father. Yeah. So moving on, let's look into this particular slide. Now, in the past slides that we saw, we are always talking about, the focus is on you, the person, yeah. And when it comes to communication, it's always about relationship with one another. Okay, but then again, I want to pull you into this model. It's called the 3-circle model. This is a very popular model for family businesses. We have the family system, which is the family. We have the ownership governance system, yeah, and of course, then we have the business system, yeah. So as an individual, we are all in that blue circle, yeah. Relationships are within that blue circle. But some of us who are owners of the business, or some of us who are also holding certain positions in the business, as per the orange circle, we have to then balance, yeah, between relationship and the structure that we are in. Yeah, so we have goals, our own goals, but at the same time we have our business goals. Yeah. So at the same time, families who are not in the business, families who do not own any shares, for example, yeah, how do you hear them out? So and here I want to iterate that for each and every one of family members in the family business, you need to ask yourself, you know, what's my voice? Yeah. What's my purpose as a family member? As a family member who has a management position, or as a family member who does not have ownership, for example, do I still have a voice? Find your voice, find your purpose. Ask yourself, what's your value? Yeah. And what's your values? Yeah. So these are two things that you want to ask yourself also. What's your value and what's your values? Yeah. What can you bring to the table? What are your needs? Yeah. How do you actually contribute to the family? But at the same time, you know, how do you become transparent as a family member? And at the same time, as a family as a whole. Yeah. You need to ask yourself how to structure communication, and bring the family together. What kind of structure can I put into place? So there is no one solution that will fit all families. Hence, that's why I'm throwing questions here. Yes, because you need to ask yourself. Families need to ask yourself themselves. Yeah, and explore. Um, the more you are aware of this, the more you are aware of these questions, the more you question yourself. The more you question yourself, the more you're aware of yourself and your family's needs and requirement. Yeah, and when you do that, then you can communicate it better. Yeah, so this is a quote, yeah, by a second generation. Her name is Bel Muhammad Yamin. As the one who is walking the shoes, I truly feel in business, trust and loyalty are two main keys to keeping the business strong. There are many opportunities to grab, but if you don't come together, nothing can be done. So what it says here is, you know, it's so important to ensure that families continue to communicate, that families trust each other and be loyal to each other. Yeah, it's very important, because if you have this, then only you can be stronger in your business. All right, so that ends my slide. I just like to share that in what we do, we call it our 3 C's: communication, cohesion, continuity. We believe in that. We believe that families who communicate are better able to work together. They are better able to have cohesiveness as a family and cohesiveness in business. And when they are able to do that, then the business can have continuity, hence the 3 C's. So with that, I thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, ma'am. So nice of you. It was a wonderful session. Now we are open for the questions. So I would appreciate if you have a question, you can just type it in the chat box, and I'll be taking up your questions so that we could proceed for the questions, and we'll be forwarding it to Dr. Leilanie.
I have a question, if you may allow me to ask.
If you could write it in the chat box. So
yeah, sure.
any other questions will be coming up, so we'll be able to take the questions accordingly. So there, if you're trying to say something, we are not being able to hear you. Can you please, if you have a question, can you please type it in the chat box? Yeah, we have a question from Dansa. What should we do, Dr. Leilanie? I'm taking up the question.
Yes, go ahead. What's the question?
It's in the chat box as well. What should we do if the owner or the leader is agile towards the change and modification, but in most of the time, family-owned businesses are people-sensitive, and few employees are resistant to change.
Okay, so yeah, so I get the question. So what do we do if you know, we need to implement something? Employees are resistant to change. Family members may not even understand it. Hence, in a change management process, for example, you need to have a communication strategy, a communication plan, one that fits to be shared with the employees, and one that is to be shared with the family. Yeah, change doesn't happen overnight. Your team needs to come up with a plan on how to talk about it, constantly communicate about it, be honest about it. Yeah, it's not an easy process. It's not gonna be overnight. But it's gonna take time and effort. It's gonna take a lot of headache. Not just to the owners, but employees. People are resistant to change. Yeah, we are all at some point resistant to change. Yeah, but we should not give up in communicating, in talking. The best is to be honest, to be open, to keep the communication flow open, meaning it should not just be one way, because when we talk about communication, especially mindful communication, it needs to be two ways. Yeah, communication, you voice out what you plan and what you want to do, but at the same time allow an avenue for employees and family members to also talk about it. Yeah, that is why some companies will have retreat sessions, or some companies would have a town hall session. Yeah, whether your company is small or big, find time to speak to them. Many a times, sometimes during a big change in the company, we hardly see the CEO, we hardly see the owners. Yeah, employees have to start talking to the senior management or the general manager. Hence, for employees, they do not feel that they are part of the change. But if you get the founders to be involved, the families to be involved, have open communication, then they would be more open to the changes that is happening around them, because then they know, they're not just there, because they're being told to change. They know that the founder or the family owners are also telling them that we all need to change. We are all in this together. Yeah, it has to be together. Change needs to be done together. It cannot be done alone. Yeah, so I think that would be my answer to how do we address change. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we move on to next question. It's from Umair Sheikh. Can you please advise what is the best for children, either to directly join the family business after their education or to join after some industry experience?
Okay, so this is a good question. Yeah, a good question, because it seems to be an easy question, but it's actually quite mind-boggling to find some families and even the children. Yeah, in the family businesses that we have been involved in, and even in a lot of publication and research and so on and so forth, I find that family businesses who wants to ensure growth and continuity, that they are serious about growth and continuity, they will usually ask their children to work outside first to gain industry experience before joining. Okay, so this can be done, say, in your in the employee policy for families, yeah, in your constitution. All right, so you can communicate to the children or any next generation that if you want to work in the company, you need to have industry experience first. Yeah, learn from outside and bring it into the company so that we can grow together. Yeah, usually some people will set 3 years, some of them will set 5 years. Yeah, the company Kumpulan Karangkraf, the largest printer that you saw earlier on, yeah, they make sure that the next generation have experience outside first. Yeah, but some families, they do take the children in immediately after education. And what they do is you need to get the children involved at an early age. Yeah, bring them to the office, get them to do things, rotate from one department to the other, during summer holidays or school holidays or term breaks. Yeah, get them to do things that is not just management but also operations. Yeah, so regardless whether they come before experience or immediately after their after graduation, it's important that they have some kind of experience. But I believe that most large companies, most large family businesses, they do encourage their children to have outside industry experience. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. There is another question, and that's from Mr. Zahid. I missed it earlier. Mr. Zahid also a question. I'll read it for you. How to rebuild trust among family members if it's lost, either for any of the reason?
Okay, yes. If we look into individual relationships, yeah, once the trust is no longer there, it's so difficult to bond again. Yeah, it's just human nature. I have one example. One of the jobs that we've done, it was with a large bank in Malaysia who is a family business. There was no trust between siblings because there was a fallout with regard to the in-laws. Yeah, so it's hard to build trust again. But what the founder did was, of course, they brought us in as to mediate, yeah, to find out from the one that is feeling left out, find out what's going on, yeah, find out what's happening, why was there a conflict between the siblings, yeah, find out and give them a voice, yeah, because sometimes when there is because families tend to take sides, yeah, when there is conflict, right, families tend to take sides. So you need to find out from both parties what's going on. You need to find out, what happened, and when this is done, it's good to get an outsider, yeah, because if the father were to do it, or an uncle were to do it, or an auntie were to do it, it may seem like it's not, it may seem that the auntie or the uncle is taking sides, yeah. So it's good to have an outsider. Again, it's not going to be an easy process. It's going to take a long time for people to rebuild trust. Then you need to structure, what are the common grounds, or what are the things that they would agree on, and you need to lay down what are the things that you can put blocks, yeah, build the blocks again to ensure that families can come together and work towards it. Yeah, I do suggest that bring a third party, talk about it, have a session. If the person is ready to talk about it face to face, sit down and talk about it face to face. If they are not ready to talk face to face, then talk about it separately with the third party, and then the third party will then bring the information together, and then digest it and share it with the families, and see and find ways how to move forward together. Yeah, and this is important. Yeah, to find the common ground, to talk about it, and then to move forward. They need to acknowledge it, and then they need to then move forward together. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take years sometimes, yeah, but it's good to start talking about it. We cannot just sweep it under the carpet, hoping that it will go away. It will never go away if there is distrust among family members. We need to talk about it.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another question from Mr.
Sure.
Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
In a group family business where every involved member is doing different business, but on board level are involved in decision making and can influence each other, in this situation, please share how to communicate more effectively and to present your vision without getting lost.
Okay, so as how I understand this question, that family members are involved in different kind of business, but they are involved as a board member, yeah, in the family business, yeah. So I think what is important is to make sure that at the board level, everybody is on the same page. Everybody is aware of what is the company's vision, goals, purpose. Everybody understands what the founder's philosophy is, what the company's philosophy is, yeah, and all these things that I mentioned, we should not take for granted. We need to continuously communicate. It may seem like, oh, why do we have to be reminded of the vision? Why do we have to be reminded of the founder's philosophy? Why do we have to be reminded of, what we need to do as a family business? We have to be reminded every now and then, yeah, every more often, yeah, because we are human beings. We tend to forget. And sometimes, when we have, in this example, other businesses, we can be distracted and we can be biased. Yeah, we can also be biased towards the decision that we make at the board level. Yeah, but if we communicate the fact that we all need to understand the family's business, we all need to understand the philosophy, the founder's philosophy, we all need to understand the company's vision, and it is our responsibility as a board member that we have to be fair. Yeah, then when you start it off that way, inshallah, representative of the board will be reminded of the duty that he has to, uphold. Yeah, that duty as a board member. Yeah, I think that would be the advice that I think is fair to families, yeah, to ensure that people don't get lost among the many other businesses that they do. Be reminded of philosophies of the founders, of the company's vision, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. So that brings us to the end of the session. We are now going to conclude the session. So nice of you. It was wonderful being listening to you, and it was a wonderful session. We learned a lot from you. Hopefully, we'll be in touch on the platform of IBA as well. By the way, there are a few people who are questioning about how should we get a younger generation trained or should we get them directly into the business. So on the IBS platform, we do offer diploma in family managed businesses where second generation or third generation, those who are young ones who are going to enter into the businesses, are being trained for that. So in any case, you can just contact IBA for that. Thank you once again, ma'am. Ms. Aisha, if you would like to say a few words, please see.
Thank you, Dr. Leilanie, for making time for us, especially right before Ramadan, and giving us this very insightful session and talking about something that is so very, very important in family businesses, and in the hard aspects of family business, the business aspect, and often the soft side, which is the family, is overlooked at the detriment of the family business sustainability. So thank you once again. It was really a treat and a privilege to listen to you. I hope our participants, uh, they benefit from what you've shared. And inshallah, we would love to welcome you to Karachi, Pakistan in the near future. Thank you so very much. And thank you to all of the participants for joining us today. Inshallah, we have a lineup of speakers in the near future. We will communicate to you on the future sessions, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you too. Again, I want to thank IBA for the opportunity to share and also get insights from all of you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Aisha, and thank you, Mohsin, for arranging this. And I hope that everyone have benefited from this session and have a wonderful, blessed Ramadan. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.